The 15-Point Plan is part of the Win, Make, Give podcast network.
Welcome back to another episode of the 15-Point Plan podcast with your host, myself, Greigg, and my partner, Jacqueline Smith.
Welcome, everyone. We are super excited to go through another one of the 15 points in the 15-Point Plan. And as always, our goal is to empower you to be healthier, happier, and more energized through the 15-Point Plan. Today, we are going to talk about influences. Right, Ryan?
That's right. And, Jacqueline, I can 100% be energized or completely stressed out by some people that are around me. And so today we're talking about who are our influences and how can we find ones that give us the best energy and hopefully no stress. And What we know, Jacqueline, is that quote, right? We're only as successful as the 5 people that we spend the most time with. We're probably as successful maybe as the average of those 5 people that we spend the most time with. So who we spend time with, both in person, but also online, or who we're talking with, we found is incredibly important. So let's talk about these influences, Jacqueline. Let's start with some of the good ones, though. Some of the good influences that are in our life and what that might look like and what that would do for us.
Yeah, when I think of the good influences in my life, I definitely think of some of my mentors or friends that they love me, but they probably challenge me a lot more than others in my life. So they don't necessarily just agree with me all the time. I like having people around me who don't allow me to wallow, to feel sorry for myself, and to complain. Even though some of those friends that they'll always be down for like a good vent session, a good complaint session. I mean, those feel good in the moment, but they don't really help us feel better overall.
Yeah, and that can be pretty troubling, right, Jacqueline? I mean, we talked about that. I don't think anybody wants to be at a never-ending pity party. Like, imagine that. If you called me, and every time you called me, I just looked at the phone going, here we go. Jacqueline's I don't know if I want to pick up Jacqueline. She's going to complain about something. And you know what? As I say that, I've been that person.
Yeah.
I got to stop that.
Yeah, I think I've heard the term connecting on complaint, or another way of saying it is co-rumination. And it's really where, it's so easy to connect over the negative things and connect on like complaints that we have, or to vent, like those vent sessions. And I think in those moments, you like those friends because they validate you, you feel seen and you feel heard, and at the same time, is that really healthy? And is it really helping you feel better? Probably not.
Probably not. And what I'm hearing from you is that a good influence in your life, they love you, but they're going to challenge you on that. They're going to say, you know what, Jacqueline, first of all, if you need to cry on my shoulder, okay, that's cool. Go ahead and cry. Like, I'm here for you. And I'm not going to offer you advice. My best influences, they don't offer me advice. They just listen. But I'm not going to always call them in that pity party moment, right? I'm going to make sure that if I complain to them or cry to them, there's going to be a balance of the other side of that. And it's not just going to be that, so that they don't think I'm only coming from that side. But these positive influences, if we go down that path, they're going to be there for us. They'll listen, but then they're going to challenge us. And they might just say something like, Jacqueline, get out of your dang head. Like, snap out of it. They're going to tell us what we need to hear when maybe we don't even want to.
Yeah. And then I think the other thing too for positive influences is they have maybe achieved something that, I want to achieve in my life. So maybe they're a mentor to me, on the financial side of things and wealth building. And then I might have other mentors around, health and wellness. And you're one of those for me, right? And so I might have different mentors for different, I guess, pillars in my life. And I want to have those people that I can look up to and look to as examples. And to me, that's a positive influence, when you can be an example to someone else.
I think you nailed that. Yeah, I think our influences are the people that have done the things we're shooting to do,
Mhm. Yeah.
And sometimes those people can actually be in a room with us, right?
Mhm.
Like we can for example, if I see somebody that well, my friend Jake, Lab Athletics, he's a personal trainer. He's 15 minutes from my office. If I want to learn more from a pro like him, I can actually go to his gym, ask him questions about workouts or nutrients, and he's right there. I can be with him, but sometimes that's not the case. And I've just had to learn that that's actually okay.
Mhm.
Some of my mentors or some of my biggest influences, I'm maybe haven't met, but they influence me in a positive way. And I follow them maybe through social media or their podcast or their books in other ways. So we can have influences that don't have to be physically in the room with us, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it can be a person, and then it could be, also what you focus on. And I think we all have probably more influences than ever without realizing it, just through the nature of social media and television these days and things like that. We're just so plugged in, and we tend to just mindlessly scroll. I mean, I do, when we have those spare minutes. And so just in that few minutes that you might be scrolling, I mean, you might see anywhere from 10 to 20 posts. And, they say that we're spending on average 4 hours a day consuming content, whether it's on social media or TV. And that's 59 days. So 2 months out of the year that we're spending consuming. And so paying attention to, well, what are we consuming and how is it contributing either positively or negatively to our mood? Because it can be maybe a positive thing for you to hop on your Instagram and be inspired by some, quotes and memes and positive posts, but it could also be very negative if you're going on there comparing yourself to people. They may not even be a negative post, but it's causing a negative reaction in you, your response to it. So I think it's important to really pay attention to how we're feeling and maybe when we go into it, and then how are we leaving that scroll session or that TV show that we watch? Like, is it really contributing positively to us or negatively? Because I don't know. I have a hard time believing that anything's like truly neutral.
I agree. I think that's a good point. Yeah, I could look at something that's probably going to be black or white. It's going to either put me into a good state or not, not a great one. I call that unintentional influences, where
Mhm.
we're doing something. Oh, I got a couple minutes. Let me just check the gram, and we see something that we didn't like, and it puts us. And maybe just 5 minutes ago, like we just came off of something really great, and now we're in the total opposite direction, and we had no intention of doing that. So these unintentional influences are incredibly dangerous because they will throw us off course. We know what it takes to get into a state of flow,
Mhm.
and little distractions will break that. And every time we break that, we have to recircle back and spend minutes, if not more, getting back into that state of flow with an unintentional influence that broke us out of that. So you had a good idea, Jacqueline. When you see those, let's say you're on Facebook, you're on social media, Instagram, and you see something and you either just go, oh, I don't like that, or that's negative. What do we do?
I unfollow. I mean, you can be a great human. I have to take agency over my mindset and my mental health and my outlook. And sometimes I mean, I'm not going to unfollow someone if it happens one time, but there's those people that just repeatedly, like every time I see their posts, I get, a physical almost like response or like a
Yeah,
negative reaction, or it just makes me feel bad. And I let those go. I just let them go because there's enough that I can't control in life. I definitely want to take, advantage of the things I can, and I can control what I look at, right?
100%.
I can control what I'm watching on the TV. And like my husband likes to watch these certain news shows. They're very political, and I won't be watching the show, but I can hear it, and I will start noticing that I feel aggravated because these people are just like arguing, sides. And I'm just like, why on earth would you want to listen to that? And I just I have to leave the room because I'm like, I don't want to hear it. It puts me in an aggravated state.
And when we're in an aggravated state, we are like a wall to the world and to the universe that's trying to give us our blessings. They're just bouncing off us. Nothing will come our way because we're in this negative space. And we need to break out of that. We need to break out of that. It's like, just because you friended somebody on a social media platform doesn't mean you can't break up with them. And if they're constantly bombarding you with negative energy, why? You mentioned on the last podcast, Jacqueline, about making that list of thoughts on the left side and truths on the right side. I did that a long time ago with Ben, of looking at a list on the left side. What are the things that give me energy? On the right side, what are the things that take my energy? And let's just start crossing those things off on the right side. If it's taking my energy and not giving me energy, how can I remove it from my life? It's just not serving me. It's just draining my energy. And we all know our cups are only so full. I had to explain that over the weekend to my son. I said, every time I ask you to do the chores that you've already said you're going to do, if we have to debate it, I just had to pour a little bit of water out of my cup. Now my cup's full in the morning, but like I asked you to do that laundry. You said you were going to do it at 11:30. It's 11:45. You haven't done it. I have to ask you again. And now we're debating it. Now a little more of my water's out of my cup. Well, then this negative influence came. I had to pour a little more water out of my cup. And I didn't do the things to fill my cup back up. Now my freaking cup is empty and I'm burnt out. And then I see something online that's negative. Oh, you better watch out because Ryan's raging bull right now, Jacqueline.
Yeah.
So let's just get all that stuff out of here.
I think it's so hard. I think a lot of times we feel like we have to be on social media all the time, and we justify, especially if you're listening to this and you're a business owner. I know you know what I'm talking about. You feel like you have to be on there. Your business depends on it. And what I would challenge you with is, are you just going on there and consuming, or are you going on there to create and connect? And that's the two different things. And I don't think that consuming is positively impacting your bottom line as a business owner. I do think that connecting and creating positively impacts your bottom line. So if you use that story or that justification that you have to be on social media in order to run your business, I would just challenge you. Are you creating or are you consuming? And you can probably cut your time down by 90 or at least 80% if you get rid of so much consumption time.
That was a really good point that you just made in regards to influences and specifically business, Jacqueline. If we're on social media, but we're not, what'd you say was the word? If we're not
connecting and
connecting.
creating.
Yeah, if we're not connecting, creating, we're just consuming. It's not doing anything for our business. Then we're just, that was a good point. Sounds like we just got to make sure that we keep people in our lives that inspire us, that have done the things that we want to do and that give us energy. And if we need a moment where we need to get something off on somebody, that's okay. I'll tell my friend, hey, can I have a moment to vent? And then I make sure I get my moment and then I circle back and that's it. So if we got to vent to somebody, let's not always have it be that person. And let's make sure that we're having good conversations with that person as well and working our way out of it and keeping people around us that give us energy and reduce our stress.
Yeah. And seek out mentors. Don't just get rid of the negative, but replace it and fill your life with the positive. And I think, like you said, it can be a person in person. It can be someone that you follow. It can be podcast hosts that you listen to. It can be books that you read, but pay attention to the different pillars in your life. I always think of family, recreation, my health, my spiritual life, my mental health, my physical, and make sure you have positive influences in each of those pillars, and not just focus on getting rid of, but what are you replacing it with that you can look up to, that you can have as an influence and a positive mentor in your life.
I think that wraps us up, Jacqueline. Making sure we have positive influences in our life, removing the bad and replacing with the good.
Love it.
As always, thank you for listening to the podcast. Thank you again for sharing the podcast, for following and subscribing on all podcast platforms. And big shout out to everybody that's messaged us, whether that's on Instagram, Jacqueline Ray Smith, or Bentley's Old Man. Maybe they're following us on the Facebook Place for Wellness group. But it means the world that you've listened to this, that you've shared it with your friends and family. So we thank you from the bottom of our heart. And Jacqueline, see you next time.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for listening.